Now, let's talk about furries. As I said earlier, yesterday, you will recall, the Children's Society government-funded report came out with a report to say that we should all empathise, we should sympathise, we should respect kids, little kids who identify as animals. And when I say identify, they dress up as animals. Some of them go around on all fours, eat their food out of bowls, all this kind of stuff. The kids love it. Well, some kids do. Stupid kids do. Now, is that a good thing to do? I don't think it is. First of all, I just think it's a very unhealthy thing for a kid to do so obsessively. And secondly, furries, the furry culture, you know, it's not all fun and frolicking around like a bloody rabbit or a fox. There is a sort of sinister pornographic sex side to it. So adult furries, you know, they're not just romping in the fields pretending to be lovable creatures. They're doing a lot more than that. There's a lot of pornography attached to it. So by saying or indulging children who want to get into this, we're actually luring them or allowing them to be lured into a culture that is far from healthy. Now, we tried to reach out on this programme today to the furry community. Some guy leading it called Firefox or something. That's his, they call it their fursona. Anyway, when we tried to reach out, come on, tell your story, tell us all about it, you know, give him a fair crack of the whip. This is what happened. He went on to social media, I'll show you the graphic in a minute if you're watching on TV, telling everyone, there it is, don't talk to talk. Talk are trying to talk to, don't anyone go on to Kevin O'Sullivan's show, don't talk to talk. You know, Firefox. And by the way, don't you tell us what we can put on the screen or not. He told us, don't we dare do this. So here you go, Firefox. How powerful are you feeling right now? There's your little message. Why? What have you got to hide, Firefox? What are you so worried about, Firefox? Hey, hey? It's 03444991000 if you foxes can use the phone. You're not a fox, by the way. You're a person in a stupid outfit. All these people go, I am fox. Basically, this is what the Children's Society was telling us to do. To accept that these kids who genuinely think they're rabbits or cats or whatever the hell, that they are. Well, they're not, are they? None of these furries are animals. They're human beings, or semi-humans, dressed as animals. So, let's get that straight. It's not just that you shouldn't indulge kids doing this in the first place. You know, when I was a kid, if I'd have gone around saying, hey, Mum or Dad, I've got a fox outfit and I am a fox. You know, I know these were different times. I've got a clip round the ear and say, you're not a fox, get out of that stupid outfit. You can't do that these days. I'm not encouraging corporal punishment on the part of parents and all that, but I think a little bit of parental discipline is in order. In these circumstances, you are not a fox. If you want to wear that outfit for a couple of hours, okay. But you're not going to crawl around on all fours, and I'm not going to treat you as a fox or a rabbit or a cat on the basis that you're not a fox or a rabbit or a cat. You're a person. You're a human. This is not a good idea. I think the Children's Society indulging or advising us to indulge these kids, it amounts to child abuse. Let's talk to, from the New Culture Forum, Amy Gallagher. Hi, Amy. Hello, is that working? Can I hear you? Oh, there you are. Hi, hi. Well, you heard my thoughts on this. This is the point. You know, ostensibly, on the face of it, you think, oh, you know, just people dressing up as animals, frolicking, having a bit of fun. But there's a very sinister side to this culture, to this cult. And I'm not saying that all of them are like this, but there is a sexual element to it, and there is a pornographic element to it. And when the Children's Society say we should indulge children who get into this, I mean, what the hell are they advising us? Where the hell would that lead these kids to? It's wrong, isn't it?
It is wrong. It's extremely concerning that they're using the word furry to describe children because it's projecting like an adult sexual fetish onto children. Because as you say, the furry, so-called furry community is adults deriving sexual pleasure from dressing up often as animals or cuddly animals, and it does have a kind of a paedophilic element to it because they're sexualizing something that's innocent and childlike. Okay, so when you're now putting that onto children and saying that that's what children want, it's extremely disturbing, actually. And, you know, children, as you say, children will naturally kind of do silly things and role play and play games and pretend to be animals, and that's part of play, but it's very different from a sexual fetish that develops in adults. So the fact that these two things has been brought together, and when a child does kind of say that they're an animal or pretends to be an animal, they're usually doing it either just for fun, or they're trying to see what the adults around them will how they'll respond to it and what they'll make of it, and will they tell me to stop doing it, and will they explain to me why I shouldn't do it. So they're kind of looking for guidance. So the idea that you would then encourage it in a child, you would say, oh yes, you are an animal, or yes, you should do this, or you should dress like this. It's totally it's gonna be actually quite frightening for children because they're looking for adults to put boundaries in place, not to sort of say yes, you can be anything. So the whole thing is just a mismatch of a load of ideas that don't work all put together. And you do think that the worst people, you know, paedophiles and people, all sorts of nasty people will, you know, take this and they'll you know, use it in a way to get what they want from children. So it's just opening the doors to all sorts of things. It's very, very worrying.
It really is. And this report by the Children's Society published yesterday, it's sort of it's got, well, I've said sort of, it's not sort of, it's government funded. You know, the government paid, so taxpayers pay for this report. And in this report, it says, you know, we must be sympathetic with children who identify as animals. Well, I don't think we should. I'm not saying that they should be punished or disciplined, but they should be discouraged. And then it goes on to start talking about we should empathise with children who actually have experienced being animals. You know, in other words, these people who say, I'm a cat, and then they take it to the next level. These are the ones that start crawling around on the floor and eating their food from bowls. Adults are indulging kids to do that. They start saying, oh, no, I actually am a cat. And the Children's Society is telling us to take that seriously. They haven't actually experienced being a cat. Only a cat could actually experience being a cat. And yet this government-funded report is telling us to sympathise with these people who say that.
Well, it's using the language of transgender ideology, isn't it? I identify as, and a lot of us who push back against gender ideology, when we said, you know, if you're a man says he can be a woman, why not, you know, say you can be a cat or a dog? And we were often laughed at and told, well, that's not going to happen. That's stupid. And we see that it is happening because if you can change sex, why not change species? You know, and then what's next? You know, essentially, you're just completely rejecting reality and truth entirely.
Yeah.
So we really are down the rabbit hole here because, you know, we've now created a kind of structure in our society where, you know, somebody's subjective feelings are what should be listened to, and then we get into a situation where children are saying they're animals and you have to just accept it. So it's you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, so there's the furries. These are the ones who identify as animals, and according to this report, I've got some quotes now. The report says they are walking, talking animals. Well, some animals walk, but none of them talk. So walking, talking animals. These kids are walking, talking animals. You and I, Amy, and every other taxpayer in the country paid for this claptrap. This is what's interesting. You alluded to it just now. 1 in 8 of these furries, as they call themselves, also self-identify as transgender and non-binary. So there you are. I mean, there's all sorts of aspects to this, isn't there?
Yeah, well, it's breaking down boundaries, isn't it? When you break down the boundaries of sex, when you say you can be any kind of sex you want, or you can be gender fluid, then you open up the doors for you can be any kind of animal. And as I said, there is a concern here because it's also breaking down the barriers of age as well. There's this paedophilic element to it that, as I said, it's pushing a kind of sexuality onto children and treating children as though they're adults and they would understand kind of the adult world of sexuality or identity. Children don't even know who they are yet. They don't know what they like. They're still trying to understand the world. They're still trying to understand themselves. So the idea that they could know that what they are just doesn't make sense, particularly like that they would kind of be some kind of animal. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, it just doesn't. This is what happens with this ideology. It just becomes more and more extreme and more stupid, and it will actually lead to children becoming mentally unwell. I mean, they're pushing something onto children that will make them just distrust everything and everyone around them because there's nothing is true, nothing is real.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, what kind of a future can the average kid who's allowed to go around on all fours as a cat eating his or her food from a bowl, what kind of a future are they likely to have? But this guide, the Children's Society guide that we're talking about, also, as I said earlier, it provides important information on a kind of subculture of furries. They're called Therians, 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 and these, in this report, are described as, listen to this, people who actually experience being an animal. No, they don't. What is this nonsense in a government-funded Children's Society report?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's just completely insane. And you like you said, you have to work. How did we get here?
Yeah.
And we know we've got all of this transgender ideology madness that's been pushing this onto people over the years, and it just keeps wanting more and more and more, and they just don't know when to stop. It's like a constant revolution. It has to keep kind of pushing the boundaries further and further and further until you accept kind of that 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely off the deep end. It's crazy.
It certainly is. It really is.
It's an internet subculture is what it is, and it's being pushed onto people, and it's so worrying that it's ending up in reports like in the government, and you just think, why would they accept this, and why is it being funded? All of this funding should be cut.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't need this kind of report because it's full of rubbish. It's full of absolute rubbish. But as you say, in the end, this comes down to sexualising children, and way too much of that goes on. Amy, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Amy Gallagher there from the New Culture Forum.